I'm Alex Michelson. This week, the issue is California rejects the recall.
I feel enlivened, I feel more energized, and I feel a deep sense of responsibility.
How did Governor Gavin Newsom pull off the landslide? And where does he go from here? Plus,
let's be gracious. Let's be gracious in defeat.
Larry Elder joins us one-on-one to talk about his future and the future of California's Republican Party. Plus, insights and analysis from an all-star panel in studio this week. Brian Goldsmith, Areva Martin, John Kobylt standing by as The Issue Is starts right now.
Broadcasting across California, California's only statewide political show. You're watching The Issue Is.
Thank you for rejecting this recall.
California voters overwhelmingly reject the recall of Governor Newsom. The top potential replacement candidate also winning in a landslide.
We may have lost the battle, but we are going to win the war.
So what exactly does that mean? And will Larry Elder run again? Let's ask him. Welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Alex Michelson. Larry Elder tweeting out this late this week. We want to put it up on the screen. It shows that the last time around we had a recall back in 2003, there were a lot more registered Republicans than now in California. Back then, Arnold Schwarzenegger got about 49% of the vote. This time around, Larry Elder got about 47% of the vote of people who chose to answer question 2 on the ballot, which, of course, is who should replace Governor Newsom. It's important to point out about 45% of voters chose to leave that question blank after the governor told them to leave it blank. Overall, although ballots are still coming in, about 64% of voters chose to keep the governor. About 36% wanted to remove him. Those are similar numbers to when he ran back in 2018. Let's talk about it with Larry Elder. Larry, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Alex, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So what message do you think California voters were sending by rejecting the recall by more than 25 points?
I got outspent 10-1, according to a state senator I talked to just the other day, and they brought in the heavy lumber. They brought in Obama, they brought in Bernie Sanders, they brought in Elizabeth Warren, all of whom cut commercials for him. And by the way, none of whom said anything at all about his record on crime, on homelessness, on the outrageous decline in the quality of public education, on the fact that people are leaving California, businesses and people, for the first time in our state's history. All they said was Republican takeover, Republican takeover, Republican takeover. And based upon the electoral map, it worked.
The election increased your profile in a major way. It changed your life forever. Here's how your favorite paper, the LA Times, wrote about it this week. They say, it's now Larry Elder's California GOP. What's his next move? So we know that Governor Newsom is running again in 2022. Are you?
I'm giving it a lot of thought. Right now, I'm decompressing. I'm going to take a few days off and figure out what I want to do. I have a lot of options, including, of course, going back to talk radio. But I must tell you, Alex, only in America can a black person be president of the United States and the black face of white supremacy. What a country.
So we know that you took time off of the radio in order to do this. Are you going to go back on the radio?
Again, I don't know. You know, as long as independents and Democrats can be convinced to hate Republicans more than they're concerned about those issues, we're still going to have these problems. And by the way, we still have them. I lost the election. Has crime gone down? No. Has the cost of living gone down? No. Has the quality of education improved? No. Are people still leaving? Oh, yes. And I predict the exodus is going to be greater because a lot of people were staying just because of me.
It is clear that President Trump is very popular with a lot of the people that voted for you. But it is also clear that President Trump is deeply unpopular with the majority of Californians. Right. We have seen in blue states, some Republicans have won governorships by being against President Trump. Is it possible for a conservative, unapologetic Republican like you to win in a state like California? And if it's not, is it worth it to run again?
That's a very good question. That's the $64,000 question. I am a Republican. I have not voted for a Democrat since 1976. That was Jimmy Carter, and I regret that. And of course, I was not going to vote for Hillary. Of course, I was not going to vote for Joe Biden. Donald Trump, you're right. He's quite toxic to a lot of people, but he's quite energizing to other people. It's a mixed bag as far as his personality is concerned about how people perceive him. 83% of Democrats believe that Donald Trump is a racist, despite the fact that he presided over the best economy for blacks ever. So I think it's emotional. There's a lot of anger towards Donald Trump. He's been able to be characterized as a dangerous person. I don't feel that way about him, but whoever becomes a nominee in 2024, whoever he or she is, I'm going to support him. I wasn't going to vote for Hillary. I wasn't going to vote for Joe Biden.
You know, you warned about potential voter fraud before the election. You asked voters to contact your team so you could potentially sue if you found voter fraud. Do you have any lawsuits planned?
No. What I did was I asked anybody, voters, whether they were Republican, independents, or Democrats, if you see anything or hear anything suspicious, let us know. And people did contact us. And there were several people who said that they went to their voting precinct and they were told that they already voted. We tracked it down, and it turns out every single one of them was able to vote. So far, so good.
If you ran again in 2022 with the same strategy, the same message as you did right now, is there any reason to think that the outcome would be different?
Great question. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was reminding me of a scene from Star Wars. One of the Star Wars I hadn't seen, and one soldier was looking over the battlefield, looking at the opposition, and he said, "There's just so many of them." End of quote. There's so many more Democrats and independents who the New York Times says leans left than was the case in 2003 when Gray Davis was recalled. The math is daunting. I'm not sure whether or not I can answer yes to your question. Is there anything that any Republican, real Republican, by that I'm talking about somebody who believes in tax cuts, somebody who believes in school choice, somebody who believes in lowering regulations, somebody who believes in things I believe. Could any real Republican win in California given the electoral map? I'm not sure.
And let me just lastly about you and about this race. We saw you faced a lot of negativity. You faced a lot of racism on the campaign trail, but you also got a lot of love. We were out with you with these overwhelming rallies up and down the state. Was it fun running for governor?
It was a whole lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. And I must tell you, I missed talk radio less than I thought I would. I missed it. But I had a really good time. There was a lot of love out there, and a lot of people, including men, came up to me crying, telling me, "You've given me hope. I'm thinking now about staying in California. Now I'm not going to leave." And I even talked to people who told me they were going to come back to California. I felt that there was a nerve I hit, a heart I hit. And Elex, you've been knowing me for some time. I'm a likable guy. I just didn't have enough time to convince a lot of independents and Democrats that I'm a likable guy. And I think once they realize that, they'll lower their guard, and maybe, just maybe, they won't be so reluctant to pull the lever for somebody with an R at the end of his name next time around, if there is a next time around.
And lastly, most important lesson learned from this whole experience?
You lose your voice and you gain weight.
Well, good luck on the diet. You sound great today. Larry Elder, thank you for coming on this show throughout the experience. We've enjoyed the conversations. Great to see you.
And Elex, again, thank you for being fair. You've always been hard on me, but you've always been fair. And I respect that.
All right. Enjoy a little rest. Larry Elder, thanks so much. A lot to unpack there. We've got quite the panel standing by. Here they are, Areva Martin, Brian Goldsmith, John Kobylt, back in the building. But first, an appreciation of a comic legend.
Good night. Would you get them off me?
This week, we lost Norm Macdonald, perhaps best known for his time on Saturday Night Live. He was also a brilliant stand-up and one of the all-time best talk show guests. Norm was fearless and unpredictable, as evidenced by this joke while hosting the ESPY Awards.
Charles Woodson, how about that? Huh? What a season he had. Great, man. He became the first defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy. And congratulations, Charles. That is something that no one can ever take away from you. Unless you kill your wife and a waiter, in which case...
We said yes to science. We said yes to vaccines. We said yes to ending this pandemic.
Governor Newsom and President Biden both crediting California's vaccine and mask mandates as a reason why the governor overwhelmingly defeated the recall. To break down a historic week in California politics, we've assembled some of our all-time favorite panelists back in the house for the first time in a year and a half. It's great to have all you guys back. Brian Goldsmith, of course, is a media and political consultant, as a former journalist. For years, he worked alongside Katie Couric for all her top political interviews, and he served as an informal advisor to Pete Buttigieg's campaign. Areva Martin is an attorney, activist, and author, and she's got a new book coming out. It is called Awakening: Ladies, Leadership, and the Lies We've Been Told. It's about 6,000 pages. John Kobylt is one of the most successful conservative radio talk show hosts in the history of California. The John and Ken Show airs weekdays on KFI AM 640 from 2 to 6 p.m. and is available on the iHeartRadio app statewide. Welcome back to The Issue Is, friends. It feels like family's back in the house. Great to see all of you guys.
Great to see you.
Great to be here.
Yeah,
I bet you say that to all the guests.
No, it's true. And it's more true with some guests. It's very true with you guys. Let's go down the line, though. Big takeaway from this big week of the recall results. Brian.
COVID control is a winning issue for Democrats, both in terms of energizing their base, persuading swing voters, and also, if you're a Democrat, good to win and run in a plus 25 Democratic state.
Yeah, yes, it helps to have the numbers on your side. Areva.
I think the big takeaway is that despite some mistakes that Gavin Newsom has made, for the most part, the majority of Californians are happy with the state of California. We have some of the highest vaccination rates. We have some of the lowest infection rates of COVID-19. We have a $50 billion plus surplus, and the state is doing well. Of course, there are issues. Of course, there are things that can be improved. But I think the crush of the loss that Larry Elder suffered during the recall shows that Californians are pretty much happy.
Let me preempt John and challenge you on that premise. Do you think that everybody is happy? Or do you think that people really, really didn't want Larry Elder to be the governor of California?
Well, I think it's a little of both. Of course, everyone in the state is not really, really happy, but I think the majority of Californians are happy with the direction that the state is going. And of course, we did not want Larry Elder without any experience in running government, having never run or, run anything, less known a state the size of California. He wasn't qualified to run this state, and the voters told him as much.
John, your takeaway from this week.
Larry Elder and the state of California are two entirely separate issues. No, a lot of people are really unhappy, and they've got good reason to be. The homelessness in LA, just open your eyes. Do Democrats really want to live like this? Because it's disgusting here in LA, and it's disgusting in San Francisco. So to say that they're happy, and that's why they voted for Gavin Newsom, implies that they are happy with the living conditions, which I find gross and intolerable. Just me. Are they happy with a school system in LA, which is not only one of the worst in the country, but was closed down for 16 months in impacting minority kids? 80% of LA schools, minority kids. Are Democrats happy that all those minority kids didn't go to school for 16 months while Gavin Newsom's kids went to school since a year ago?
And you can be happy about the direction and the trajectory of the state while recognizing that the state has problems. And it's very curious to me that Republicans care about minority kids. Because if you cared about minority kids, you would step up on so many issues that impact minority communities. We don't see you stepping up on issues like the George Floyd crime bill. We don't see you stepping up on the infrastructure bill. We don't see you stepping up on so many
policies. You're changing the subject. Let's talk about the schools.
I'm not changing the subject.
The LA schools are a disaster.
I'm not changing the subject at all. I'm talking about the hypocrisy of the Republican Party. You want to throw minority kids into the mix, but when minority kids are at issue, when they're jeopardized by the policies of Republicans,
the Democrats claim that they are the advocates for the minority kids.
Keep minority kids out of your mouth until you're ready to step up on minority kids.
No, I really want to know, if you claim you're an advocate for minority kids, how do you close the schools down for 16 months? How do you live with the worst school district in the nation?
I don't have to claim I'm an advocate for minority kids. I'm a parent of minority kids, and my work speaks for itself. I've been fighting on behalf of all kids, particularly minority kids, for the majority of my career. And I don't think you or many Republicans can say the same.
I'm not a Republican.
Brian,
first of all, I'm not a Republican, but I'm not talking about Republican, Democrat. I'm looking at the issue. Yeah. The issue is what should have been debated during the campaign, and it wasn't.
The issues that you raised, John, I think could potentially be powerful weapons in the hands of the right alternative. The challenge for Republicans in this state is they keep putting forward candidates like Larry Elder, who are unelectable in California.
That's why I said Larry is separate from these
They
issues.
are not putting forward a Charlie Baker like in Massachusetts or a Larry Hogan like in Maryland, who are Republicans coming from the center who can win in an overwhelmingly Democratic state. They are in their own little echo chamber.
Yeah, I know.
Talking to the same
They're
little
terrible.
35%.
I've never belonged to the Republican Party, and I find the party in this state to be absurd. I'm happy with a Democrat who just addresses those issues, so why don't they? What's the downside to say we're not putting up with homelessness anymore? We're not going to put up with all the crime going on.
But the Democrats the Democrats are saying that.
Absolutely.
They are saying that. The question is, are they
working on it as well?
They've been in charge for 20 years.
It's a completely flawed argument to suggest that Democrats haven't been working from the state level to the local level. Homelessness is a huge problem.
There's a lot of addressing.
Multifaceted,
There's very little
complicated,
action.
Right. Well,
and you can't just point to one issue and talk about
and we're going to spend $12 billion this year on homelessness, and we'll see what will happen.
We gave them $3 billion
on it.
in an extra tax. And it got worse.
All right. Well, great part of having you guys back in studio. We're going to have more in the next break, including talking about Larry Elder and the interview we did with him. But we've got some music. So we've got Bruno Mars playing now for Areva. Hopefully you can turn it up in here so we can see Areva's dance moves. I know John's got big ones.
No dance moves today.
We'll be back with more. The issue is right after this.
All of you know the last year I got to run against the real Donald Trump. This year, the leading Republican running for governor is the closest thing to a Trump clone that I've ever seen in your state.
In the final rally of the Newsom campaign, President Biden tried to tie Larry Elder to Donald Trump. This happened in Long Beach. The question, where does the California GOP go from here? Back with our panel, Brian Goldsmith, Areva Martin, John Kobylt. John, you heard Larry Elder on our show a short time ago here on The Issue Is. What'd you make of what he said and where the party goes from here?
There barely is a Republican Party. I mean, I don't really know what that means, because what you had with these candidates were a bunch of freelancers, guys who want to be governor or want to increase their profile or are really pissed off at what's going on. But it wasn't organized. They weren't financed. They weren't endorsed. So I don't think the Republican Party is of any use, really.
Which is really an extraordinary thing to say when you think about the California Republican Party and its history. It produced Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, Pete Wilson, George Duke Majan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, all two-term governors not so long ago, and now it's producing Larry Elder, John Cox, and Caitlyn Jenner. This is fundamentally about who is the messenger as well as what is the message. And this ought to be, the 15th or 16th wake-up call for the California Republican Party that they need to fundamentally change.
Areva, I was kind of struck by Larry Elder not saying he was going to run again and really acknowledging the real math challenges ahead. What did you make of what he had to say?
Well, I made a lot and then a very little about what Larry Elder had to say. And I'm going to agree with John on something. John said this was about a lot of folks who were running, some because they were disgruntled, but a lot of them to increase their influence. And when I listened to Larry Elder in the interview you did and in interviews he's done previously, I just see a guy that's trying to increase his influence. And the arrogance to suggest that people are not going to leave or they're going to stay in California because of him, I think that just speaks volumes about his ego and about his delusion in terms of what he means to the state and to the race.
And John, there's a lot of hope at the beginning of this that somebody like Kevin Faulconer would be what you're talking
that's
about.
who I
somebody
voted for.
who's more moderate. He lost big time.
Nobody ever heard of him.
So what do you think? I mean, if he does this again, and who knows if he will run again or not? Now he's saying he's reconsidering whether he will in fact run again. How does he do it differently the next time around? Can he?
Well, at least he's got a year this time. Going back to your point, you can't jump in 2 months before an election without an organization and without money. Now, Larry thought he was world famous and he could just fly in there. But he wasn't that famous. You have to understand when you're in talk radio or any kind of media niche, the people who watch you or listen to you, you're famous to them. But you're not famous outside the bubble.
Quickly for Kevin Faulconer. One is, can he raise the money to actually do voter contact in the state of California? Number two, can he repudiate Donald Trump? Without that, the voters he needs will never listen to him.
And the most famous person in the race by far, even more famous than Governor Newsom, Caitlyn Jenner, ended up polling among the worst of all the candidates as well.
Well, you leave the state in the middle of a race to go do a reality TV show.
After I saw her interview that you did in the first days, I knew she was going down.
Up next, what is this panel watching on TV other than the issue is? Thank you for the plug, John. This is Emmy Awards weekend. It's a chance to celebrate one of California's biggest industries. Ted Lasso on Apple TV Plus is deserving of the praise it is getting.
I don't like being tricked. Not by you, and not by, howdy, y'all cowboys. My name is Ted Lasso, and I'm from Kansas. Wow.
They're naming a street after you.
I know. Deborah Vance Drive. It'll probably be a dead end with an abortion clinic on it.
Jean Smart is so funny, playing an aging comedian in Hacks on HBO Max. It's one of the many shows nominated for Emmys this weekend. Emmys weekend, big weekend for the state of California and our big industry, entertainment. Back with our panel, Areva Martin, Brian Goldsmith, John Kobylt. All right, around the table, John, let's start with you.
Oh, no, don't.
What's your favorite show on TV right now?
When I tell you, you always stare at me because it's never anything current. I don't watch any current TV.
Nothing at all? Haven't tried anything at all?
No, I go home and on my iPad, I watch old Johnny Carson shows and Dean Martin roasts and Don Rickles appearances and Rodney Dangerfield. Everybody's dead. And I watch their old performances and it makes me really happy before I go to bed.
Okay. All right, Areva.
Okay.
Anything from the 21st century.
Okay. My favorite show on television is Chicago PD.
Okay.
But I've been binging The Wire. Because after Michael William died, there was such an outpouring of love and support for him.
All right, Brian.
Well, in addition to Hacks, which I love.
Hacks is so fun.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And Jean Smart deserves like a Nobel Prize in addition to an Emmy. I loved White Lotus. And Succession is probably my favorite show on TV, and I'm really excited for that to come back.
Well, clearly we have similar taste. Succession is the best show on TV, but Ted Lasso, in this moment of so much political polarization, bringing us together. It's so nice to have Ted Lasso on. All right, we say goodbye playing Hollywood Nights to celebrate the incredible work coming out of this town. Thank you all. Great to have you back in the building. Love all three of you. John Kobylt, Areva Martin, Brian Goldsmith, thank you. Larry Elder, thank you as well. Thank you for watching The Issue Is. We'll see you next week.